Hello, welcome to Construction Estimating presented by DPR Construction for the ACE Mentor Program of Raleigh-Durham. DPR Construction is a self-performing general contractor focused on highly complex and technical projects. To get a little bit more information, I have a video presented by our marketing team.
Every day has its purpose. Today offers opportunities yesterday couldn't. What will we do with tomorrow's opportunity? At DPR, we don't just build buildings. We build manufacturing facilities that produce treatments to improve and save lives, laboratories that discover new horizons, and classrooms that inspire the next generation. Creating places where scientists revolutionize and scale treatments for those who need it most connects us all. That is when being a builder truly matters. We at DPR are dedicated to the highest levels of safety and quality. Our passion is to build a facility that allows you to provide life-improving and life-saving treatments for your patients today and for generations to come. Sharing in your future to change the world and having fun while we do it. Because it's what we do. We exist to build great things.
Great, now that I've convinced you all to become builders today, let's go over some of the lesson objectives. First, we'll give over an overview of what the estimating field is. We'll go over the estimating process. And then lastly, by the end of this lesson, you will have your estimate deliverable for your final presentation complete. The estimate itself is the process of establishing a projected cost of the entire project that any general contractor or construction manager will be building. It involves quantifying all the elements of building a project, both seen and unseen, and developing an appropriate cost for those items. We, as estimators, capture the complete cost of what it will take the project from all perspectives, including labor, materials, equipment, staff, insurance, fee, contingency, design, etc. What's shown here is an example of what a completed deliverable that DPR might produce to present an estimate. Now, next, we will go through some of the processes of how to develop that estimate and how you will be doing something very similar. Typically, for professionals, what we do is we use a variety of different software to do quantity takeoff to take off how much of a building component there are. Shown here are different screenshots of various programs where we might be taking off site work, taking off walls, doors, and sometimes we even use 3D modeling software to help us take off components of a building. What we will be doing for today's lesson is something very similar, is that hopefully by now you will have booted up your spreadsheet on one of your computers. If you have not done so, please pause the video and take some time to open up your spreadsheet. And we will go through and quantify each section of a building component going through by unit format. Starting off with foundations, what's shown on pictures here are from left to right are a mat slab foundation, foundation drain, and some deep foundations. To take off foundations, we take our floor plan layout. Hopefully you already have this developed. And what we do is we take off corners of the building. Every 40 feet is typical for foundations of a normal building. And so if you don't have them drawn, you can always put them in place. For the mat slab foundation, we can take the square footage of the building by taking off the perimeter and then calculating that square foot area. And foundation drains will be a pipe that goes around the perimeter of the building. Now please pause the video at this time and do this activity. Now that we're back, we'll go to the next activity, which is slab on grade. This usually sits elevated on top of our foundations with a layer of dirt or crushed stone base in between our foundations. What we'll do here is typically first is fine grade, as you can see in the back, is pile all the dirt on top of our foundations, smooth it out to a full fine finish, add on dirt, and then pour our concrete. To do slab on grade, it's really quite easy, and hopefully you've already done this, which is we take the perimeter and the area, and we calculate that for our slab on grade. I will pause the video so that you can do this takeoff, or if you can see a trend coming here, we can reuse a previous quantification we did before. Up next in our building, we do a superstructure. Shown on the left and the right are concrete shear walls and columns, and in the very background you can kind of see a steel structure. How that's done is, again, we go back to our floor plan layout, and remember our foundation layout. Again, each of these foundation layouts is where we would drop a single point of a steel or concrete structure. You can drop a column there and then connect the lines between the circles to form your beams. What we have shown here is a shear wall. That's our stairwell. That's usually made out of concrete or masonry brick. And you're able to calculate that by calculating the perimeter multiplied by the height total of your building. I'll pause the video so that you can take that input into your superstructure. Moving forward, we have exterior skin. This is where things get a little bit more exciting. We have from the left is metal panels to a brick facade to a timber curtain wall. All of these are different systems that you can use to clad the building. To take off our exterior skin, we take our elevation drawing, and what we do is, again, we're calculating the area, which is length times width, of our different building components. Here on this building, we have two different types of curtain wall, and so we'll quantify those different types and price them accordingly. I will pause the video right now so that you may do the takeoff now and plug it into your spreadsheet. Up next is our roof. So we've built the bottom of our box, we've built the sides of our box, so we have to finish the top. The top of our box is typically a roof membrane or a metal roof, and there's other systems too. Reach out to your mentors for other ideas. In this case, we have a TPO membrane, so it's basically a plastic/rubber roof, and on the right we have a metal roof. To do roofing deck, we take our roof plan layout from the very top, and such shown here is a typical example of drawings. On the right are details of how the roof comes together. These are some examples of the details that you may want to draw in your sketches or in your buildings. To take off the roof, again, it's a simple gross square foot area, and we take that off. We'll pause the video so that you can do this activity. You might be able to reuse a previous takeoff if you could. Up next is the fun part. We get to do our interiors. Shown on our left is an acoustical ceiling tile, different types of acoustical treatment and partitions inside, as well as walls and doors. For your building, you take your floor plan layout, and what we'll do is we'll go through and quantify our various openings. For example, here circled are our openings, which these are your doors. You can go through and you count how many doors you might have. Here we will also take our walls. We do this by linear foot times the height of our wall. So typical wall buildings are about 12 or 10 feet tall. So you can take that off. Then lastly, we go through each of the rooms and we can take off how many ceilings we have. Some rooms might not have ceilings. For example, a gymnasium would be open. I will pause the video so that you may go through your building and quantify different sections of your floor plan layout. Now that we're back, we get to continue with our finishes. Shown on the left is a gorgeous marble lobby with all types of high-tier finishes, and on the right are examples of different types of carpet that can be purchased for your building. To do so, we go back to our floor plan, and we can kind of reuse some of the same takeoff that we had before. For example, we can take off our walls, except this time we will multiply the length by the height of the walls for the square foot of paint or wall coverings that we'll put onto it. We can also use our ceiling takeoff if it's similar to quantify what type of floor finishes, whether that's a carpet tile in an office shown here, or a terrazzo floor in the lobby area. I will pause the video now so that you may quantify different components. Up next is if you have more than one store in your building, you will have some type of conveying system, basically an elevator. Shown on the left is an elevator cab, and on the right is an elevator shaft. Again, conveying is pretty simple to take off. You go back to your floor plan, you can count how many elevators you are, and then you'll multiply by the number of stories that your building has. I'll pause the video now so that you may do this activity. Up next is plumbing systems. We're getting to some of the MEP systems where it might be more complicated. Here's an example of a plumbing system drawing. On the left is a roof drain layout, and on the right is a bathroom layout. For plumbing, normally what we do is we will go through and quantify the amount of pipe and fixtures in a system. If you don't have this sketched already, you can do a gross square foot calculation similar to what you did for your slab on grade or your interiors to do a calculation that way. If you have some of these detailed drawings already done, please quantify the number of pipe and fixtures, and that will get you a pretty decent estimate. I will pause the video so that you may do this now. Up next is building HVAC. Again, this is an example of what we see in the field. We'll quantify those gray boxes, which are air handling units. What's shown in blue and cyan are different duct systems. And then what's in the green are different hydronic pipes. So that's heating and cooling water that comes from the units. HVAC is a very complicated system, and it typically spends quite a number of time to quantify all those systems. An example here is what we would do is if you have a duct plan layout or an equipment layout, maybe you even have pipe detailed, you can quantify those ducts and the pipe amount and plug them into your estimate. If you don't have them plugged in or drawn, here's an example of something you might want to sketch at a later date. Or again, similar to plumbing, we can do a gross square foot calculation if needed. I'll pause the video now so that you may do this activity. Up next is fire protection. Every building needs it, and shown on an example are on the left is a fire pump that pumps water from the street into the building, and on the right are different types of sprinkler heads that distribute water across the entire building. To do fire protection, luckily this one's a little bit simpler. Typically, fire protection is delegated design. This means that our trade partners in the field that we hire, they do the design for us. So for fire protection, it's almost always a gross square footage calculation. If you are a fire protection engineer or fire protection trade, you can always do a head layout and quantify the number of pipe and sprinkler heads. But for us, we'll do a gross square footage calculation. We will pause the video and you can do this activity now. Welcome back. Up next is electrical. Shown on the left is a generator. On the right are different types of light fixtures, and on the very bottom is switchgear. This powers electricity from the street to distribute across the building. For electrical drawing, shown here is a electrical room. If you don't have this sketch already, consider this as maybe a detail you want to put out. Here is where we have located our generators, our switchgear, our transformers, and distribution. Don't worry if you don't have this done. Similar to HVAC, plumbing, and fire protection, you can always do a gross square footage calculation to determine the value of your electrical. I'll pause the video now so that you can do this activity. Up next is one of my personal favorites, which is site work and landscape, so your site improvements. Shown in the background is clearing of a land, which essentially is moving dirt back and forth, and landscaping, which is installing some trees, shrubs, flowers, decorative gravel, etc. to make your job site look nice. This is usually done at the very beginning of the project and at the very end. Up next we have is site work and landscape. To do a takeoff of this, you take your site plan and you can, again, kind of get the send trim here, is you can take a square footage calculation off of how much parking you have, how much road you have, any planted or grassed areas, and you can quantify the number of trees. What's shown here is an example of a landscape plan that has different types of plants. You can use that to quantify as well. So you can kind of count how many different types of species of one grass I have, how many species of a shrub I have there, and so on and so forth. I'll pause the video now so that you can do the takeoff there. And that is all. Thank you for attending today's lesson on estimating. If you have any questions or help pricing certain items, please reach out to your mentors at your location. Thank you.